Let's do that way. Okay, so today we are starting a little bit early so that we are already online before we kick off. We only have Francis, Godfrey, and myself here today. Suso and Dillis are missing because of various personal events. So, welcome to the Attaining the World's Beyond 15 Minutes Review. We are currently looking at chapter 21, and we decided we're going to look at the second half of chapter 21, which is yearning for spiritual qualities. I think to start this off, I have a question. And the question I have in mind is how can we gradually develop spiritual qualities? Because ultimately, that's what this segment of the book is trying to cover. And I actually just look at the whole thing and say, well, hang on, what this actually mean? It means that we need to strive for the quality of altruism, because that is what the creator's quality is. And ultimately, whether we like it or not, we're moving towards it. We can either move towards it through the path of Kabbalah or through the path of suffering. And Dr. Laitman has given us a lot of information in previous chapter. For me, I was left with a number of reaction to this, one of which is there is no other force that governs this entire universe other than this force we call the creator. And whatever you must call this force, there is only one force, which puts the average mind in turbulence. Because to say that there is only one force governing and this force is good in quality, question is, why do we see bad things? What is going on? Why do we see all these bad things happening in the world? And so the book goes on to talk about how the creator created the world and the fact that we have two souls operating within us. We have the soul that is linked to our desire to receive, and the other soul that is linked to the desire to give, which we don't use because it's not developed in us properly yet. And then there is a third soul that is going to come in to do the work. And so all these bad things that we see, which Dr. Lightman called the impure forces, are deliberately designed to push us towards the creator. And I'm going to hand over to Francis to continue.
Yeah, Sheila, thank you. You covered quite sort of a significant portion of that. But you're right, Dr. Lightman continued from last week, as we did, bring us to a point where he's actually teaching us. We're talking about changing egoism. What really are we changing? What part of the soul are we changing? And as Sheila said, he mentions the external body and then the internal body, which is altruism, external body, egoism. And there is a link, a third part from above that the creator specifically designed, the perfect operator designed it that way. There is a middle body, which he called technically as the Klipat Noga, which actually decides between the internal body, the body of altruism, and the body of egoism. In other words, if the middle body, which contains the desires and the thoughts, cooperate with the inner body, then a person, is going to develop all the altruistic body, altruistic desires. In other words, merge, go towards merging with the creator. If the middle link or the middle body cooperates with the external body of egoism, then, is a different story altogether. So I got the impression that our work really lies with, tuning in all the desires and the thoughts that springs from the middle body or the clippered noga with the internal body or the body of altruism. And this is a real work for anybody, trying to walk on this path to develop himself to the point of unification with the Creator. And this is really crucial because this is no longer theory. And he goes on even to tell us the two steps of changing the ego, which I will, come back later. But for now, I think I'll hand over to Godfred.
Yeah, thanks, Francis. Yes, I want us to refer to a page where Dr. tell us about when we begin the real work. In page 292, Dr. says that when we begin to do the real work on ourselves, we immediately begin to see the obstacles on our path for the perception of the spiritual work. These obstacles appears numerous, and that it is the gift that the Creator actually sent to us to bring us closer. So when we want to connect, we yearn for spirituality, we yearn for connection, and then we ask Him to help us. The ego, for us to collect the ego, only the Creator can do it for us. So we yearn. So what then happens to the person? You then ask him that I have the deficiencies, I have these two bodies, and the only way I can do work on this body is you helping me to overcome the challenge that I have. The challenge is that I have ego, big ego. I want to have everything. I want to enjoy everything. But there are 10 billions precious that the spiritual world give us. But until you walk slowly and overcome all the three bodies, and then actually attain the upper light, which Dr. explained to us, you'll not be able to enjoy, you're not able to see the upper world, what it's called for you. So we ask the friend to go through the book again and enjoy the connection, enjoy the art of seeing yourself, overcoming your egos, and do the collection so that you can advance on the bodies that we intend to collect them. So,
Okay, so this is practical session. When it comes down to it, we do know that on a day-to-day basis, we have thoughts that come to us. And these thoughts are very often very scary thoughts, very negative thoughts. They are not pleasant thoughts, and they are thoughts that give us all sorts of explanation of what is happening to us. Very often we are trying to blame other people for what is happening to us. We are blaming them that they are doing bad things to us. They don't mean well for us. They think the worst of us, something along those lines. Well, this book says that all of those thoughts, those impure thoughts, are actually sent to us by the Creator. Wow, really? I just had a fight with my boss, and you just tell me that came from the Creator? I just had a fight with my sibling, and you just told me that came from the Creator? And I just had a fight with my neighbor, and you just told me that came from the Creator. So what am I supposed to do with all these thoughts? The book also says that we have to be an observer. The problem is, if you remember last week when we were looking at the first half of this chapter, it did say that the problem we have not been properly trained how to respond to events. And because we are egoistic in terms of our inherent quality, when event happens, they trigger us and we go chasing them as though, like the story of the cats who were dressed up as waiters that were sent into the king's palace. And then as soon as the mice turned up, they left the king chasing the mice. And that's what we do all the time. And this book was so real because I had to look at it and thinking, well, okay, so the Creator sent all of this, but why? For us to develop our spiritual quality, for us to be able to rise above them. But we are never going to be able to rise above them if we do not call upon the Creator to help us. Because the book also says that there are two things we have to do. we have to recognize that the mind that we have is egoistic mind. The heart that we have is egoistic. And so therefore we cannot rely on them. The only way we can move forward to get to altruism is to just forget this broken mind and broken heart and move towards what is called faith. In other words, we are not going to use, we are going to trust that there is another power, there is another mind above what we have, and it's going to help us. Hence the reason for prayer. Prayer then becomes the means by which we ask the Creator. So if there was any change we have to make, is pray more. And this is not about praying more for you to, for all these problems to go. It's praying more for the qualities of altruism to be given to you, because when you have that, you will be able to see and perceive the world very differently from the way we see them now. Francis?
Thank you, Sheila. Yeah, so that is where the work comes in, our work, on this path, that we pray more, as she said. What are we praying for? We're praying for the thoughts and desires which spring from that middle link or the middle body between the altruistic body and the external egoistic body, which the Creator intentionally planted in us, as Sheila said, to be corrected, to work with the internal altruistic body so that we develop altruistic qualities. I would just like to read a portion of Dr. Laitman's book at this point. In page 287, the first paragraph, he says, in all the situations that face us in life, we should strive to see everything as coming directly from the Creator and to see His point of view as if it were ours. So as Sheila was giving the example, I fought with my boss. I had a quarrel with my sibling, and you're telling me I should see it as coming from the Creator. Yes, that is it. He designs everything in such a way that He pushes all this, what we see and feel as obstacles, He pushes it our way to drive us to do the work so that we will get closer to Him. In other words, my thoughts, my desires, even my dimmest thoughts comes from Him. I might doubt that myself sometimes, but even my dimmest thoughts come from Him. And that is what calls upon me where to turn, to turn and cooperate with the inner altruistic thoughts. That is the work that I'm supposed to do. In that way, I correct the thoughts and desires which He sends me for the purpose of drawing me closer to Him, right? I correct them and gain more altruistic thoughts. In other words, I'm ascending closer and closer to Him and merging with Him in so doing. Gottfried?
Thanks, Francis. The Creator have qualities. His qualities are that to bestow. And that is the qualities I yearn. If I want to work with Him, if I want to attain spirituality, mean that I want to have His qualities. So here, He gives me all the obstacles. He gives me the challenges. Then I ask Him, please help me to overcome them. I then rise, have faith above. I rise above all these challenges. I accept them. I see them as good. I see them that it is for my own benefit. And therefore, I don't see anything bad, as one rabbi said, that there's nothing bad. But everything is bitter. It's like a medicine. We see it as so bitter. It's like a medicine which is bitter because it does the healing. So if I perceive all those things as medicine for collection, I need to collect them. Therefore, it's bitter. But then when I take the medicine and I get cured, even though it's bitter, it heals me. So whatever challenge I perceive, I rise above it. I enjoy it because the Creator who has sent it to me, for me to come closer to Him by asking Him, by praying to Him to help me. Shira.
Yes, but let's begin here. When things happen because it's a spiritual operation. Let's be very, very real. It's a spiritual operation because you're given a vessel or something, your desire is to receive. And now it has to be inverted into giving. This is like going to the hospital and telling the doctor, you know what, I've got a kidney that is like this shape, but I want to turn it upside down. They're going to have to cut you up and turn the whole thing upside down. And that's exactly what is happening to us when we are going through spiritual changes. So it might not be palatable in the flesh and the blood, because I'm not going to pretend that it is. However, having that awareness, that understanding makes the big difference. The question is, if you have a fight with your wife this evening, sure enough, you are not going to be saying this came from the Creator. Unless one of us remind you when, if we were around and say, Godfrey, we just finished that book, it comes from the Creator. You will be latching at your wife and not even remember that you read this chapter at all. However, this is the reality of life. Life is about moving closer to this quality, and it is through prayer that we are going to get there. And we all have to pray for one another to remember this, because otherwise we can just talk about the theory here, and then when we leave this place, we go off to business as usual. What all of this means that we have to be very, very mindful that prayer is our only way out of egoism. There is no other way. With that, we will see you next week, and thank you very much for watching. For those of you who are watching, thank you very much. And we will be probably continuing this chapter next week or move on to the next chapter. Thank you very much.